Dan here, thepaintballpost.com, and today we're going to talk about how paintball guns actually work. Now, this is the second video in our series of Paintball TAFTAs, which are questions you are too afraid to ask. That looks pretty complicated. It doesn't have to be. Okay, so down here, I've got a barrel and a paintball, and at its core, all that's happening when you go to shoot a paintball is the same thing as if you are shooting a spitball. You put air behind the ball, it goes forward and comes out the other end. That's it, right? Blow darts, same concept. So if that's all you need to know, video's done. But there's a bit more going on, as you can see on that breakdown of my beloved MacDev Prime XTS, and that is, these are really, really fragile. So how do we put enough air behind this to not have it explode? Now, sometimes it just does. Sometimes you get barrel breaks. That's just going to happen. But let's talk about how these things work. Essentially, the way that paintballs work is we put that air that I mentioned before into the gun through a series of seals, and we lock that into different chambering, blah, blah, blah. And that wants to expand, right? Our atmosphere is something like 14.7 pounds per square inch. Yeah, that's our air pressure at sea level. So it's going to vary a little bit depending on where you are. So we're taking an air tank that's got between 3,000 and 4,500 psi, ideally. I mean, they can be less if you've shot some shots out of it, but that's how high you can fill these things up to. We're regulating that air down to between about 400, 800, and sending that into the gun itself. From there, we regulate that down. Usually, not every gun has a regulator internally, especially when you're dealing with, your entry-level Tippmann 98s and entry-level Spiders and things like that. We pull that down to the operating pressure of the gun. Some are 100 psi, some are 200, some are 3. We'll talk about that in a future video to do with how much psi actually matters. And then that ends up behind the bolt. Right? So there's a few boltless designs out there, but we're just going to talk about the overarching, this is what the vast majority do. We've got our bolt here. And then we have, in this case, this is from a fairly inexpensive, older spool valve gun I have. I've got another video and article coming up on the differences between spool valves and poppet valves, so stay tuned for that. Like, subscribe, you know the drill. But we've got air back here, and it wants to expand, right? It is in a chamber that is not letting it do so. So we have it sealed off, right? There's an O-ring here. So while the bolt is on here, that air can't get out. And we have air pressure in front. That's what these front O-rings are for. They're holding this bolt back. Now we relieve that pressure, and this air starts to expand. And so it expands and moves the bolt forward. And once it crosses the threshold of that O-ring, now that air wants to expand. It's got metal on all sides except for the front that we direct the air to the paintball. That air then vents into the barrel and pushes the paintball through. Paintball go down field. That's it. It's all about air. Right from the very first paintball guns that ran on CO2 cartridges, now we're mostly running high pressure air. There are still some that you can get that run off of the cartridges that started it all. But these days, we run air into the gun from a high pressure air tank. We regulate that down to whatever the system needs, and we have that air come up the front. Now, how it all works, it's different on every gun, for the most part. Some use very similar bolt systems. But that is generally how a paintball gun works. Air wants to expand, so we force it into a spot that it expands behind the paintball, and the paintball goes through the barrel just like a blow dart or a spitball, whatever you want to think about it as. That's kind of it. If you have any other burning questions of just, yeah, I'm new to this and I want to know how the heck some of this stuff works, head over to thepaintballpost.com, leave a comment. Leave a comment here on this video here on YouTube. We might do it in a future video. But we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.